Hey, Space Cadets, this is Ross Johnson, your favorite co-host from the Sound of Tomorrow show on WAYO 104.3 FM Rochester. Coming up on today's show, we're talking about To Kill a Mockingbird. Literally just ways to kill mockingbirds. It's not talking about the book at all.
We murder now.
Yep, we're
birds.
very murdery.
Just birds.
Heather wants to talk about winter driving, which I don't know what this is about, but I assume it's just an old lady rant about winter driving. We're going to talk about Drag Race. And we've got some catch-up stuff to do. Why don't they drive like that anymore? Back in my day is probably an impression of how that's going to be. That's what's coming up on the Sound of Tomorrow, next, etc. However, but first, blah.
Ross, you have to help me. It's Groundhog Day.
Oh, sweetie, no, we have been through this. Listen, not all holidays are dress-up holidays. Remember a couple weeks ago when you wanted to dress up like a tree for Tu B'Shavat? And you wanted me to do your hair?
It felt important to commemorate, and I love a theme.
Okay, it's too much, though, and you're not even Jewish. Although, I will say this. Your Flag Day ensemble was on fleek.
Thank you, but still, Groundhog Day, help!
Okay, well, if we're going to do this, I see that you've already got a head start on the makeup, and your hair is looking very convincingly groundhoggy. So let's see where to go from here.
What? No, Ross. I'm not trying to dress up for Groundhog Day. I'm in a Groundhog Day type scenario.
Oh, like a time loop?
Yes. How did you know?
Because you said Groundhog Day like 15 times.
Right. The time loop makes me think of Groundhog Day because they pull that groundhog out of the ground and make him look for a stupid shadow, which seems really annoying, which reminds me of my very annoying situation.
Huh. Okay, so you weren't making a comparison to Groundhog Day, the movie.
The what?
With Bill Murray?
The who?
And the time loop?
No idea.
Okay, fine. Time loop. So, wow. Okay, so how many times have we had this conversation then?
Dozens. Hundreds.
Wow. Okay, so this has been going on for a while then.
A really long while. And not just this part of it. It actually took me a while to figure it out. But we've had variations of this exact conversation for what feels like well over a decade.
Wow. Okay. So we're going to help you out of this loop. We're going to do it. Okay, Heather? Since you've done this before, what happens next?
The theme song.
Okay, right. But I mean, like what happens, what exactly happens after that?
Oh, got it. So you and I are going to talk for roughly an hour.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but about what?
It's always the same, Ross. Some liberal weenie nonsense. You'll refer to a movie I've never seen, and then rather than coming to any sort of conclusion, it'll just sort of end.
Oh, sweetie. That's not a time loop. That's just... Oh, desperation for material. Hey, everybody. I am Ross Johnson, your favorite co-host.
And I'm Heather Zykowski, the babe with the power. You're listening to The Sound of Tomorrow on WAYO LP Rochester.
It's a show with all the people that have the ears to listen.
It is indeed. And I do love that, I picked up my WAYO fundraiser gifts that I received for supporting WAYO during the WAYO fundraiser. And that's the slogan on not only the t-shirt, but also the sweatshirt.
That's amazing.
The place with all the people with the voices saying the things.
Yeah, that's really, that was a good use of money,
and
I think.
It makes for a very nice pattern. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
To get my stuff, I got to have an adventure.
Yeah?
I went over to WAYO for the first time since we stopped going to WAYO in March 2020.
Okay.
It was great. The station looks so good. They have done a lot of work on the building itself, and the carpeted wall is gone.
The carpeted wall is gone?
The wall remains, but the carpet is gone.
So if you've never been to the WAYO studios, which is probably most people.
Could be.
We
used to have open houses
walk in the front door.
Times.
And there's a very narrow sort of corridor that you have to go through to get into the building. And to one side of so to the right of that narrow, I'll start with the lesser gross part.
Yes.
To the right side of that narrow corridor is a little like platform with a little divot where there might have been like a planter. It kind of seems like at one point. So it's sort of like, chest height or a little bit
Right,
lower.
but
And
now
then,
there's
but now
usually,
it's
like, somebody's left, like, a soda bottle in it or an iced tea
right,
bottle. There's usually some kind of trash in it.
right. So that's filled with garbage on that side. And then the other side is a shag carpet wall,
Orange
which
shag carpet.
is just the orange shag carpet. And it
Yeah,
just, there's, it's the kind of thing where there's no, I mean, it's never ever been cleaned. I don't even know how you
never.
shampoo a wall. So that's, that would be hard to do anyway.
It would.
And surely that's not happened. I mean, this is also the building where the in the men's room at least, I think two of the stalls in the men's room were out of order for like 5 years. And
Yeah.
then we just shut down for COVID. So I don't know that there's been any change with that. So yeah, it's a shag carpeted wall, which you'd kind of like want to dare people to touch, but then you'd know that they would die and their hands would probably fall off. I mean, this might be, I know there are all the conspiracy theories about China, but it's also possible that COVID came from this wall.
I know,
Like
and I
that
know
would not.
people did touch it because one time I walked in and apparently someone from local band Nod had been there because you know how with a shag carpet you can rub it one way and
Oh,
you
sure.
can write in the shag carpet. Someone had written Nod.
Okay.
So it most
That's
definitely did have people touching it.
do you think that person still has a finger?
Yeah, I think I actually, I know the people from Nod. They're fine as far as I know. Yeah.
Maybe they used a pencil.
They must have sanitized just right after. But so the
Or you could
carpeted
pull a
wall,
straw. You could pull a straw out of the garbage on the other side and then do it with
that's
that and
true.
then throw that
Or
back in the
just grab
garbage
one
bin.
of the used theater cups that were sometimes in there
Yep.
and use that to draw. There are many ways you can manipulate this carpeted wall without having to use your hands.
Absolutely.
But the carpet is no longer on the wall.
So what is the wall now?
It's just painted.
We
Looks
we won't
nice.
spend a lot more time on this because
The
once you
creepy
get rid of the
hallway
shag
is
carpet in
also
the
less
wall.
creepy. But yeah, it was just the station looked so good. Like it looked so nice. There was nobody there. And so the broadcast area was dark, but they'd left the disco ball on.
Okay.
And it looked wonderful and I miss it. That's all I
Yeah, I
wanted
sort
to
of miss it
say.
too. I sort of
It's
miss it too.
great.
Although
It's so great.
although at this moment I'm perfectly happy not to drive. Heather,
Ross,
that was a fun story. It's a sad story.
what's a sad story? Tell me one. I
Ludo
got too excited about the carpet.
Ludovic is having such a day, and I feel bad. And I hope everyone out in
Ludovich.
Radioland will send your warm thoughts and
Oh
possibly
no.
dog treats to Ludovic. Because so this poor dog, so he was like, for reasons that are unclear to me, he was anxious and nervy all night. Like he was like jumping up and down off the bed, which makes you want to strangle him. Not that I would ever strangle my dog, anybody. It's not that kind of thing. It's a figure of speech. Calm down, lady. So, but I mean, this is really like, you do start feeling a little murderous when you're trying to sleep and there's a giant dog that keeps jumping up and jumping up on the bed and then jumping off the bed and then like
Oh.
whining at the foot of the bed. And I let him out. I was like, are you sick? And I couldn't figure out anything wrong. It just seemed like, and once in a while, like people, sometimes he just gets, sometimes he's just having it. So that's sort of what it was. So, we both sort of woke up like, oh my God,
Oh
that freaking
no.
dog. But then, immediately realized he was like sort of sad because he hadn't gotten any sleep. Aside from and
Ludovic.
was, and was outside in the cold at like 2 a.m. because I was like, maybe you need to go to the bathroom really bad. I don't know. And then he was, his sister was sort of goofing around with him like she does, but he didn't want any of it because he was really tired. So she kind of like nipped at him because he didn't do anything. So he like yiped, and then this was the saddest thing I've ever seen. So he screams
Oh
while
no.
he's eating his breakfast, and he screams, and we look over and we realize, like, so when he's eating, right, when he's done eat, when he's sort of gotten all the food out of his bowl, he sort of like will shove it around the kitchen trying to get just trying to lick everything out of the bowl, and he winds up like shoving the thing, just he'll like shove it in the corner, he'll shove it out in the middle of the floor. It's just he's sort of walking it while he's licking it because
Yeah.
he's never figured out that, like, if to like brace it against the wall or something, because he's in a corner. And we realized that he had like, in doing this, he had like caught his nose under he had like jammed the bowl under a cabinet and like jammed his nose in there as
Oh
well. And the poor guy, he
no.
was fine, but he is just having a day, this poor dog. And so I've tried to be extra nice to him today. So if anybody
Aw,
has any, warm thoughts to send to Ludovic or warm cookies, he'd appreciate it.
poor Ludovic. I wish I could give him a hug. He's a very good
Yeah,
hugger.
he's a good hugger. So he is having a day, that kid.
Aw, it will be next week that Nigel is having a day because I've made an appointment with a groomer.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, and we're gonna go and we're gonna get that old dude's fur groomed up.
Wow. Does
I
he have that much
know.
fur?
Yeah, he does. And
Okay,
because he's an elder cat, it's harder to groom now. And he also hates being brushed and screams at me when I try to brush him. So
sure.
we're going to get a professional on the job and help the buddy out.
let let Nigel scream at them for a while.
I'm worried. I think he's going to be really mad at me, but I trust this person. Friend of ours and friend of the show, Sarah Smart, recommended the groomer.
Okay.
So I definitely feel like there's a level of trust there that I have, unlike if I just looked around on the internet and found someone who seemed whatever fine.
Right. I
So
love I love that our dogs don't need to be groomed except for Ileana's toenails, which I just are just I just let grow to be most of the time we just let grow to be like 12 inches long because it's just so not worth it. we're
yeah,
gonna we're
Nigel
gonna
needs
we're
his
gonna
nails done too, but I can do those. I'm not sure if I will do those though. I might also have those professionally done.
Oh my god, why not? It's so terrible. Just have somebody else do it.
He's amazingly given how I at times describe Nigel as filled with hatred, screaming at me about things. He is great when I do his toenails.
Okay.
It's
Which is
bizarre.
surprising because he's not just filled with hatred. I mean, it like overflows. It's filled and then it explodes out of him. Yeah.
He is a cantankerous little man, but I don't know. I can just pull him on my lap and touch his feet and trim his nails. He doesn't yell, he
Wow.
doesn't scream, he doesn't fuss. And when we're done, he doesn't even act like I've done a terrible thing to him.
That's so I would love that with Ileana because we have to like the two of us, one of us will have to like wrap her up in a blanket and pin her down with our entire full body weight.
Yes.
And then the other person will try to do it. And you're trying to hope because she'll like go quiet and you're like, okay, we
Yeah.
can sort of do it. And then she'll be like, wah! And you're like,
Oh
okay,
no.
I'm trying not to cut off your toe here, like as I do this. So if you could please not, it's not, you might think you might think that's a way out of this situation, but it's actually, if you would be quiet, we could do this very quickly and
Uh
there would be much less chance of you getting hurt, which she's never gotten hurt, to my knowledge, to the present. So I wish someone could explain to her that it'll be fine if she would just calm down. But
yes. Yep.
and then she'll sometimes if it gets really bad, she'll sort of try to like gum us a little bit, like because she doesn't have use of her feet, so she'll be like, I'm sort of like I'm gumming something. She'll like it's not like she doesn't want to bite us, but she wants to try to use her mouth to somehow extricate herself from the situation.
Poor girl.
Yeah.
Why don't you get him done when she goes to daycare at the pet store?
Oh, because they ran into the same problem. She would always go and we'd pay the $10 and it would be great and we'd go, once a month or whatever it was and she'd be fine. And then one time they were like, we cannot do this. She is freaking out. And then it sort of never really worked again that way. So,
Oh my goodness.
and then they can do it at the vet, but they love the vet. They love the vet. Love, love, love the
Right?
vet. And I was sort of like, oh, I don't want to get into a situation where they start to dread the vet because that's really nice that they love going to the vet
It
and that's
really
like their
is.
favorite thing to do.
That's
So,
amazing.
so I really don't want that to be become a stressful thing. So we've just learned to
Yeah.
live with the fact that she has ridiculous.
So when you're done, when her nails are finally trimmed, does she then act for the rest of the day as though you have, completely ruined her paws and she'll never be the same again?
No, she's pretty nice because I think she feels a little guilty too. like she didn't want us to do it, but then I think she also feels bad that she
That
she
she made a scene.
acted like we were gonna chop off her head. So she's pretty nice about it after that. She tends not to hold a grudge.
That's good.
Ludovic will absolutely hold a grudge, but she tends not to.
Yeah, Nigel, like I said with the toenails, does not hold a grudge. But when I try to brush him or comb him, that definitely leads to a lot of accusatory staring. Uh, Sometimes he snubs me,
Hmm.
like, which feels bad. I don't like being snubbed.
Yeah. Oh, that poor kitty.
I know, I know. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully, it's going to go really well.
Oh, you know what? Real quick, before we jump into the dramatic stuff, I got some listener feedback I wanted to share with you,
Whoa!
which we either don't get and or also I forget about. So all of you people who have sent us feedback over the years, all three and a half of you, I apologize because either 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 the feedback doesn't come and it's not I don't even feel bad about that. I've heard from much more popular shows than us that it's just like people just don't send feedback. That's fine. Don't worry about it. But so, and then when we do get it, I forget, which doesn't encourage anyone. But I got some feedback from an old friend. So we were talking about a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I will reset the scene for everyone who wants to know about the story about the time I pooped in Barnes and Noble, which was a true story about the time I pooped in Barnes and Noble. And I was so, because I don't poop outside of my home, you see, I'm just going to recap this whole thing. I'm not a person who, unless it's an absolute dire emergency or I'm in a place for like a month, like after 3 weeks, I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to have to poop here. Um, so, but one time, this was a long time ago when a friend took me to Red Lobster. This is when I still would eat some fish type meat. And I was like, wow, that was really not great for my digestive system. I don't think I'm going to make it home. So we ran into a Barnes and Noble and I pooped. And I was so horribly embarrassed. And then I was like, I can't ever go to Barnes and Noble again. And then I found out from other people that it turns out everybody just poops in Barnes and Noble. It's a whole thing.
Yes.
So I got some feedback from an old friend of mine who says, and maybe I won't quote this. Maybe I won't quote this person's name because I don't know if this is, I don't know if this is something they want me to share, but um, I remember when we were in college, I confessed to you that bookstores always make me poop. I had never told anyone that before, and remember being very grateful that you agreed with me. So, I guess it's a thing. So that's not really
Yeah.
feedback like, "Hey, great show," but that's more of
But
a I also like to poop in bookstores feedback, but that's all right.
along those lines, I received feedback on that same exact line item of the skit, and the feedback was everybody poops at Barnes and Noble.
Yeah. And I think it's just, I mean, you think it's just because people hang out there? Like, I guess you hang out there and then you have to poop.
I think so. And then they have the coffee shop.
Okay.
And I have heard the rumor that coffee makes some people poop. So I
It's
think
it
that's probably part of it.
it is always weird to me because I will pee pee. I will make pee pee outside of my home. I'm
Make
not an
tinkle,
animal.
I believe, is what we
Make
say on this
tinkle.
show.
Sure. I think that's the FCC appropriate way to talk about it.
Yes.
So I will make tinkle outside of my house quite frequently because I like to, I stay hydrated.
Yeah.
And, you'll go to the bathroom at a Barnes and Noble or a chain bookstore of the like. And I have noticed since then that you always find someone in there pooping. And I always think like, who came to Barnes and Noble to poop? But I guess it's
Everyone.
a thing.
Yep.
I'm being a judgy Jerry here when actually it's very common and appropriate and normalized apparently. So
Yes.
good on you, bookstore poopers.
Yep. It's nothing to
Keep
be
it up.
ashamed of.
I don't work there. I don't have to clean it up. I don't care. Poop wherever you want. What do I care?
And regarding last week's skit, I also got feedback that there is at least one person, the person who texted me, who wants to go out and have a drink with an M&M. So we have
Okay.
found the person.
Just
If
any M&M or a specific
yeah,
M&M? Because
it
that's a little weird.
wasn't. It was not specified.
Hmm.
In fact, I'm not. I'm very forgetful, and this was last week. It might have been all the M&Ms.
Yeah. That's a little weird because you think you would have a particular interest in a particular M&M. You would think you wouldn't
Well,
just be like all of the, I want
we
all.
all know
I
what you're
want them
talking
all.
about, Ross.
Just saying.
Oh, that was fun when we were talking about M&Ms. If anybody out there does want to give us any kind of feedback, we do love to hear it, though we are quite forgetful and we'll probably misquote you. You can drop us a line
Yeah.
at jimmyspaceboy@gmail.com.
Just remember, we might even just make up what you said, so it's
Oh,
fine
we
because
might.
we'll forget. What will also happen? These are all. I'm just going to get all the legal disclaimers out. What also might happen is I won't be able to pull up your thing while I'm trying to do it, and I'll just be like, "Oh, I think she said something about pooping in a bookstore."
Uh-huh.
So, that's
Yep.
the kind of thing that could happen.
That is how we roll here on The Sound of Tomorrow.
Right.
So,
Right.
Roz,
Yes, ma'am.
speaking of The Sound of Tomorrow, this very show that we're on, we have a segment that we like to do sometimes on this show called the RuPaul Recap. That was my remix of our theme song for RuPaul Recaps. Do
I
you
like
want to
it.
talk about season 14?
Okay, but we're not gonna sit here all day and talk about season 14
No, we're not going
of
to sit here
RuPaul's
all
Drag Race
day.
because I know how you get. I think I would think I would think the biggest thing to talk about with the biggest, buzziest,
Yeah, like the
most
buzziest news
scandalous
from the
thing would of
season.
course
Yeah.
be that now there's chocolate, which is
Right.
RuPaul is not usually doesn't doesn't seem to be someone who's probably doing a lot of sugar and carbs. You know what I'm saying? So this was very
Yeah.
shocking to me.
So strange. So strange. And spoiler alert, this is a RuPaul recap. We're just going to be digging into whatever we feel like from the first 4 episodes of season 14. Um, yeah, this chocolate bar thing, I've got to say, last week, the first time they did it, I immediately was over it right then. I was like, nope, I'm not here for the chocolate bar. I don't believe the chocolate bar. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't see where it ties in with the RuPaul brand.
It is weird because it's not there's so much that I was not intending to bring up a long conversation about the chocolate bar. So again, don't get worried, folks, but it's not going to be all day. But it is weird because it's not there's so much branding on there. Like I would not be surprised like if RuPaul, if it was like here's the RuPaul Mars bar, you know. I would not be surprised. I'd be like, "Oh, RuPaul got a branding thing with the Snickers people, and
Yes,
now
but
there's now there's a RuPaul Snickers."
these are just props made up by the prop department where
It
they
is
put
weird.
RuPaul paper sleeves on chocolate bars. And the thing that like so much of it bothers me, but when they pull the chocolate bar out of their bodice, like with the lipstick, that was bad enough because the lipstick will melt if you leave it in the car. And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't think that's been in there the whole time. A chocolate bar, it's winter in Rochester. And honestly, if I tucked a chocolate bar into my bra right now, it would melt.
See, and that bothers me a little bit too. Although I'm not 100% convinced it's real chocolate. So because nobody's eating it,
What are they
like I
going
would
to
just be
do? They
like,
just got told to sashay away and they're going to chomp into a big bar of chocolate?
I
Like right on
1000% would
stage. Is
chomp
someone
into
going
that
to
bar
do
of
that?
chocolate.
I
I
wouldn't.
would. I 1000% would do that.
Okay.
Because
I'm
it's
waiting for
funny
someone
and it's
to.
and it's because it's funny and because it would be funny and it's
I guess it
it's sort
would
of a
be.
it's sort of a oh well at least I got some chocolate. That'd be I would absolutely do that. So I don't know that it's real. But then it takes an hour. It seems to take them an hour to unwrap the chocolate.
Yeah.
I'm getting bored as they're unwrapping the chocolate. So I know it's
Yeah.
meant to be dramatic. It is a weird thing. I don't know
It's
where
so
that came
weird.
from. You're
I
right
don't.
because it's not branding. It's not a thing that's ever been the case before. It's not. I mean, there's sort of a Willy Wonka thing, but that's not really like RuPaul-ish. So I don't know.
Right.
That's weird.
So the only thing I can think of where it might have come from, and he is not claiming credit, but this guy who does the only RuPaul recap podcast out there, he claims, Mono Agapian, didn't write for this season of Drag Race, but worked as some kind of consultant type person submitting ideas for challenges and things they could do. And one of
Mhm.
them was kind of a Willy Wonka related idea. All I can think is someone decided that part of it was fun and they were going to do it.
Yeah. I
Out of
mean,
context, it's so completely ripped out of context, though. I'm not here for it. I don't need the chocolate bar part. Will that keep me from watching the show? Absolutely not.
but I mean, the random somebody might stay, does that part bother you too? Or no, do you don't
No,
care?
because there's always like at some point there's a double Shantae or
Yeah, but
someone
usually,
gets brought back for whatever reason. So this is to me just another one of those like, here we go, someone is getting another chance.
yeah, yeah, interesting.
It happens every
Of
season.
course, the real scandal of the season is the unexpected bit of diversity present in the show this time around, in that there is a non-homosexual type person in the cast whose
And
name is, I forgot
Maddie
right now.
Morphosis
Maddie
is
Morphosis.
a cis het dude drag queen. And
And
I will
walks like
tell
it.
you, oh, I know. The, the cis straight white men are glad to finally be represented on this show. I've heard this on good authority. Yeah. So there was a lot of, and honestly, I thought this was undue. A lot of kind of mean spirited hubbub online about them letting a cishet white guy drag queen be on the show.
But
And
isn't there always with RuPaul stuff?
yeah, and the
I
fandom
mean, is
is
there anything that's
really
not sort of
like,
mean?
yeah, the fandom is often really mean, but a lot of people were, like, "Oh no, he can't be in a queer space. Why are they letting him on?" Honestly, I was like, his drag is gonna stand for itself, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I I don't know what it means or to what extent. I mean, I do have that. Well, I guess I'll preface this by saying like I am fine with it. I have no real issue, and I think that actually being a straight white, not white, not that it's important that he's white in this conversation, but being a cis, I mean, he's he checks all the boxes for cis straight white, all that.
Yeah.
Being that's it's an interesting dynamic because we pretty much only ever see either we've seen gay people, trans people, um you know basically gay people, gay trans people, or straight trans people. That's pretty much that's pretty much what we've seen.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can technically be straight and trans, but you know what I mean.
And
So
we had the one bio queen on UK,
okay,
Victoria Scone.
so I think in that context, and I think being you know I think it's a little less stereotypical in a sense of, this is, a straight man can dress that pretty too. And, but,
Mhm.
I think it does bring something extra. So I have no issue with it. I mean, I do have, I, there is a conversation to be had about straight people. I, I, I don't think this is the reason to have the conversation. I mean, there is a thing about straight people, especially with RuPaul's Drag Race, like, and the popularity of it. Like, it's sort of like the straight bachelorette party at the gay bar kind of thing. There's that kind of thing. I think that's why people's backs get up a little bit.
Mhm.
And I think
Yep.
it's not unreasonable. I mean, I think it's understandable why people have, again, the sort of online stuff with RuPaul's Drag Race is always extra amped up nasty, it seems to me, which is why I kind of stay away from it. But I think it's okay, because I had a moment of like, and it didn't take me long to be like, okay, this is fine.
Yep.
I'm actually a little more weird about, and again, I'll preface this by saying like, hey, if you're a performer and you're making money and people want to see it, good for you. Do it. You will not hear anything from me about not doing it. I'm a little more weird about like, about like like cisgender women doing drag, where it's like, where I don't see the queerness. I don't see the. I think like for a straight boy to dress up in drag, and put on women's clothes and put on high heels and go dance and be pretty. There's something a little queer about that already. Even if he's not technically queer, it's still, I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
cross-dressing, it's still sort of in a little bit of that tradition. Um Cisgender women drag queens who dress up, and I'm not talking about drag kings, but cisgender women drag queens who dress up pretty like drag queens. And again, this is not a you can't do it, or I'm holding it, or I'm protesting, or don't do it. Do it if you're doing it and you're fabulous and people are paying money. Do it by all means. But I'm a little weird about that because it's like you're kind of dressing like women are supposed to dress. So it's more of
Uh,
a, to me it's not drag, it's putting on, it is drag, I mean it's fine, but you're you're putting on a show, you're dressing in, you're, I mean, I guess depending on the style of performance, you're either aping male drag queens and that tradition, or you're, and doing something that's very over the top, or you're sort of dressing pretty and going on stage. Again, I'm this is not a I am not here to tell anybody that they can't be whatever they want to be or do whatever they want to do, but that makes me hesitate, that because I'm like, I'm not sure where that fits in the tradition.
and to me, I think what you're referring to is not something that I would call drag. The dressing up pretty and just looking really great. If somebody, I mean, I have heard like Nicole Byer say that she considers herself a bit of a drag queen because she does so much to change her look.
Yeah, I mean that's not like, she's not like a professional drag queen though.
No, but she does consider herself along those lines.
Right, but
And
people
I
use
feel
the
like
word
that's
drag in all
totally
sorts of
fair.
contexts. Yeah.
Um, but like when I get dressed up to go out, and maybe I've even done my makeup really nice. Maybe I'm even wearing like a lot more makeup than usual and I've curled my hair and everything. Maybe I'm even wearing a wig. I'm not being a drag queen. I'm dressed up like a fancy lady.
Right.
If I were to do drag, for me, it would have to be like way heightened, super exaggerated femininity. Because that's what I would see myself. I know there's so many different ways to do drag, but one of the ways I think about it is not so much, and we've talked about this before in our discussion of there are women who are like, drag is misogynistic, it's mean to women. And I'll reiterate because that was years ago. I feel like drag has less to do with women and more to do with the concept of femininity.
Yeah. Um or about, I mean, for me it's about blurring those lines, blurring the lines of gender as much as possible. I mean, I think there's a
There's
lot
that
of,
too.
there's a lot of drag that is specifically about, ideas of femininity, but for me it's more about, I mean, to me it's about freaking out the squares, right?
Well,
Like
there's
it
that.
it is. I mean, to me that's where the power is. If it's not that, and I'm not saying if it's not that it's not drag, but if it's not that, um it's not in the same realm to me. It's not in the same tradition. Um, so again, I'm not making rules about what's drag and what's not drag, but to
But
me, like a straight, to me, like a straight boy, putting on a ton of makeup and dressing up in pretty clothes and high heels and going out and dancing on a stage that's still freaking out the squares. So
yeah,
I say, come on in.
yep. Yeah, I think my one concern with hearing back to Matty Morphosis that there is going to be this straight dude on Drag Race, I wanted to see how respectful he was going to be of a queer space
Yeah.
and how he was going to behave. And we're on episode 4 now, and I'm still like, good job, Matty. Very good.
Yeah.
I don't like the phrase he knows his place, but I think that kind of applies a little bit. I've seen
Well,
the Untucked where everyone's talking about their experiences, and if you hang out with a lot of straight dudes like I do, you're often used to that thing where they'll just interrupt or like you don't get to finish your story, you're just cut off. Maddie
Mhm.
is absolutely not doing any of that.
Yeah.
And sometimes fair or not fair, there's the thought of like, what's the worst thing straight men are stereotypically known to do? And again, that's a stereotype, not all men. um but to see that Maddie's not behaving that way and Maddie's very respectful. There was one thing early on where it seemed like Maddie didn't understand a reference to Santino,
Okay.
and I was like, well, that's not good. That's not good. Maddie should be really up on the Drag Race canon to be on this show. But
I don't
now
know.
I'm thinking that
I bet
was
a lot of people don't know who Santino is.
maybe, but now honestly, I'm thinking that was a misdirect because in the most recent episode, Maddie had all kinds of like quotes and callbacks and knowledge of iconic moments from the show and everything.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that was a little, producers giving us
What
a moment to like
and
hitch
and
on our minds.
and that kind of thing doesn't bother me. I mean, I like when people know the history, and even if you're a straight person, I would hope you would know the history and culture of drag.
I see.
I'm never a huge fan of RuPaul's Drag Race when it's like it's been on so long that it gets so self-referential,
It does.
and it's developed its own vocabulary, and that's fine. Like I know it because I've seen it all, but also I get a little sometimes like, okay, you guys, we don't need to sit here and everybody needs to quote all their old favorite drag queens all the time, and oh, I'm doing
You
an
know
impression of
what?
this drag queen.
Honestly, there's not another queen on season 14 that I would expect that of, but I do expect it of Maddie.
Yeah.
Because he's a straight dude who's going to be moving around in this space. I hold him
Yeah,
to a different standard. Like, you'd
and
better know your
it would,
history.
and
If
if the
Willow
straight
Pill
guy
didn't know who Santino was, I'd be like, fine.
and
Yeah, you
if
didn't
the
watch
straight
that far back, but the straight dude, he'd better have studied.
and if the straight guy were doing all that, I would feel extremely condescended to and annoyed. So I would hope he would know some of that. But if he's sitting there
No, it was
quoting the
part
old
of the
queens,
challenge. No, it was part of the challenge, remember?
okay, well,
Because they were
I have a
writing the
little different
teaser.
opinion on it. I think, yeah, no,
Oh,
I remember, I think
when
I
he
just have a
was
little different
when
opinion
he
on that.
was doing his writing, were you like, okay, 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 that's not yours?
No, no, not to say that. If he were coming in having memorized all this stuff so he could shout it out at appropriate moments, no, I would find that tiresome.
No,
And the fact
see
that he doesn't know who
that
Santino Rice is, who I guarantee like half of those people in there don't know who Santino Rice is because he hasn't been on the show for 12 years and sort of got canceled. Um, I'm surprised they even brought him up, honestly. But
that was a little surprising given how canceled he is. Okay,
yeah.
so I should be more clear because I think you're not getting what I mean. I don't want Maddie to show off that he knows everything that he knows. I just want him to understand what's going on when it's going on because he does know, but he's not showing off about it.
Mhm.
It's a it's a high standard I have.
All right.
And is it fair? I don't know. Does he care? He's on TV. I'm not. But in my mind, that's what's going on. It's like, oh, I want him to have done his homework. But no, if he were like quoting stuff all the time, I'd be like, okay, stop it. When it was part of the challenge, though, I was absolutely impressed that he knew his stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm yeah, no, yeah, I'm impressed. I don't know that I don't know if I see Matty Morphosis as like as winning the season. Who knows? I
No, I
will,
mean, I would be astounded. It,
also
he
walks like a boy.
walks like a boy.
Which
Really,
is
really
like I walk
walks
like
like
a
a boy.
boy. I
You do walk like a boy.
I walk like the boyest boy.
But
So
you
I
are
can't.
also not trying to be like a pageant lady strutting down the runway.
Right, right.
You know? It is. And this I find endearing. It's like, you know, Jasmine Kennedy will come like swirling out doing a pirouette and just like bam, hit a thing. And Maddie comes out wearing like 900 layers of clothing
Right.
and doing a good job walking in heels.
Yep. Yep, absolutely.
And I think that that's cute. I
Mhm.
I'm totally fine with that and here for that.
But you're right. I mean, I guess the attitude is a big part of it because there is sort of, you think of, again, that sort of bachelorette party with the straight girls.
That's
You think of
exactly
the
it.
you think of the straight men who, put on dresses because it's funny, and they're going to make fun of the gay guy. So
Uh-huh.
there there is a history of straight people being jerks, or either taking over, either
Right.
taking over that queer space,
I've
or
seen it happen.
doing it to make a mockery of it.
Right.
So there is, so, to your point, his attitude really does make a difference, because if he were stomping on all the conversations, if he were doing any of those other things, I
Yeah.
don't know, maybe it is a fine line he has to walk, because I
Oh, I
don't know
think
that I
it's a
would feel the
fine
same way.
line, and I think he's aware that it's a fine line. I also, from what he's said, I think he's been in a lot of queer spaces already. He's not exactly new to this. And it's entirely possible because as a straight person, it can be tempting to make it all about you, you know?
Hmm.
And maybe he's already made his mistakes and learned. I'm sure there was some time that I was the straight lady screaming at a drag show, and I certainly shouldn't have been. But hopefully somebody curbed that for me real quick and
Yeah,
told me
I'm
that that
sorry.
wasn't how we do.
Yeah, I didn't mean to elbow you in the jaw, but
No, I'm
I couldn't
thinking
help
this would have
myself.
had to be back like before I even met you.
Yeah.
Wow, like back when I was a baby, because we've known
Yeah,
each other
pretty
for so
much.
long. But
Pretty
yeah,
much.
I think that Maddie's doing a good job and I'm pleased. I agree with you. I don't even know how many more episodes we're going to see Maddie around for,
Yeah.
but I'll be
But who
sad when
knows?
she goes. Who
It's
knows?
that point now where, like, I don't have really anything else to say about RuPaul's Drag Race this season, because it's at that point where it's so many people that I have no idea what's going on, and I have no idea who's who. And then they show, like, the they show the boy they
Yes.
show the
Then you're like,
boys,
which
and then
boy
they
is
show them
that?
dressed up, and I'm like, I don't even know, like, who is who. Like, I don't even know, I don't even know which boy goes with which drag queen at this point. So, you know
Yep.
so
Yeah.
who knows? He could be around for a while, because there are like 30 more people to go, I think, before it winnows down to me being able to keep track of everybody.
Yeah. Pretty much the only big things I have to say is like Cornbread is fantastic and I love her.
Yeah,
And I completely underestimated Willow Pill the first episode.
me too. Me
She
too.
walked in and I was like, cute. She's
Yeah.
cute. And then completely blew me away. So I just need to say here to you, I was so wrong. And I'm so glad I was so wrong.
Well, and I think that happens for me because I don't have I know what looks good to me, but I don't have the fashion. I don't have the deep fashion knowledge, or the deep fashion, like, I can see if something's falling apart, and I know if I like
Mm-hmm.
something or I don't, but I don't have the deep fashion knowledge or understanding to really look at someone
Mm-mm.
and be like, that is an amazing outfit, and that is so much better than this one for these reasons. But so as a result, sometimes I really have to see the performances before I can figure out who I like. Because sometimes people come in and it's just like, oh, that is an amazing outfit, and that is so cool, and of course that person's going to win. And then you see them perform, and, like, they're fine.
Yeah, they
And
were
then
good.
you see somebody with an okay outfit, or a great outfit, but okay in the context of
Mm-hmm.
maybe compared to other people, and you see them actually perform and come alive, and you're like, oh, that person really draws me. So, you know it's it's not unusual for me to for me to take a while to figure out who's who. But yeah, no, you're right. I feel the same way about Willow Pill.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'm excited about it. I like it. I like the show. Some people try to say there's too much drag race coming on. I am completely ready for UK versus the world that I believe starts on Friday.
There you go.
Pangina Heels is going to be on. I'm so excited. I love her so much.
Yeah, I don't see any of those.
Oh, you totally could.
I could, but I
You
don't.
should. You'd like
I
Pangina.
should. I don't know. I don't want to be like, oh, I'm so busy, but I don't know that I'm able to commit to the time. And I know, like, you, that's your TV watching. I just have other things that I watch. So I'm not saying, like, oh, you must be nice to have free time to watch RuPaul's Drag Race, Heather. But,
It is. It's priority TV for me.
I have other things that I watch. So
Yeah, I don't know. I just finished my My run of Too Hot to Handle, obviously. Now I'm on to
Sure.
watching Kim's Convenience.
You know what you should probably do?
What should I do?
You should read a book.
I also read books. But Ross, I did hear something very exciting.
What's
You
that?
had stuff about To Kill a Mockingbird, a book we've talked about probably too much on this very program.
Yeah, so this was interesting to me. So we've and I'm not sure, this got me thinking. So oh, and of course, like that thing I do where I
Oh,
lose
did you
my
close your tab?
I closed my tab. Hold on.
Oh
So
no.
I It's all right. I'll get it back. So this was really interesting to me. So we have seen all of this like critical race theory stuff in the schools and the school districts. All sorts of wild stuff going on with school districts. I think it was last week we talked about the I'm gonna kill everybody lady.
Yes, we did.
Um, this past week, and there have been a lot. I mean, there are some that hit the top of the headlines, and then there are a lot of little things going on if you're sort of keeping an eye out for these
Yeah.
things. Of
Yep.
course, I've my sort of social media algorithms seem to get that I'm keyed up to all this stuff. So I'm seeing like
Mm-hmm.
it's really nonstop. So a school district in Tennessee banned Mouse,
Yeah.
which is the graphic novel about the Holocaust, which again seems to be in line with a lot of the other stuff that we're seeing.
Yeah, and just to add on Mouse, the reason that I read it's being banned is because it has depictions of nudity. Please keep in mind the nudity is mice. It's nude
Right.
mice.
It's nude mice.
It's banned because there's pictures of mice not wearing clothes. So make of that what you will.
Which, I mean, I guess being respectful of mouse privacy is nice.
There are nude mice in classrooms.
True. Well, they should put on some pants, Heather, if they want to stay there.
I mean, sometimes the class pet is a naked mouse.
So in the news, there was a lot of I was seeing a lot about this next one involving To Kill a Mockingbird. And this is the Mukilteo? 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 I don't know if I'm saying that right, but so this is in Washington, and it's I think it's like south of Seattle, right? So the school district, they've and there was a lot of like, oh look, now there was a lot of stuff in the news about, oh look, they've removed To Kill a Mockingbird from the blah blah blah, they're banning this, how terrible, how terrible. And I don't know if this is the same thing. So the school board and a group of educators and whoever makes these decisions got together, and I guess over a period of months they talked about this, and what they did was they decided to remove, I guess it had been a required part of like the ninth grade reading list, and they've decided to move it from required to optional. So I guess a lot of
Mm.
teachers are still teaching it, but they're moving it to optional. And the reasons were, um, you know, the reasons with so many of these are really transparent, or they make up things that sound really stupid, like, oh, this has a naked mouse in it.
Nude mice.
We can't possibly expose our children.
Yes.
Um, this was more about, and again, I can only go by the reporting, so it's not like I've sat in and reviewed all of the, the transcripts of the meetings or whatever. I can only go by the reporting, but a lot of the discussion was around, the ideas of the white savior narrative with this book, the sort of issues with Atticus Finch as like a heroic type person who
Mm-hmm.
also is incredibly, my dogs they love To Kill a Mockingbird. So it's really, they're having a hard time with this right now, but they're
How
I'm
dare
just
you
gonna,
question their taste in books?
I'm just gonna hold on a second.
And Ross has turned off his microphone, and he is smiling and calling off into the distance, presumably saying, "My darlings, shush, shush, Daddy's on the radio." Darling pups. Now he has gotten up from his seat. He's left the office. Now he's returned. Again, we presume he's saying, "Beautiful,
Smiling.
beautiful canines."
Beautiful canines. That's what I say. That's how I talk.
My
So
gorgeous loves.
so I'm reading the tea leaf. I'm not reading the tea leaves, but I'm interpreting the reasons here again, because I'm sort of going by what they say. Hi, buddy. I'm going by what they say the reasons are, and then also the reporting. But it was interesting to me. So it got me thinking about like what constitutes
Mm-hmm.
a banning for these purposes, because the reasons they were talking about, and I guess seeing some of their hi buddy, yes, I guess seeing some of the
Oh.
responses to this made me, because people were like, oh, well, this is the most influential book I've ever read, and this taught me all about racism, and now I know all about and how will children learn about racism without To Kill a Mockingbird? And I was sort of like, well, I love To Kill a Mockingbird. I would discourage no one from reading To Kill a
Mm-hmm.
Mockingbird. I also think if you need to learn about racism in America and you want to learn about racism in America, it had better not be the only book that you read.
Yes,
um,
agreed.
it's by a white person. It's from a white perspective. It's sort of for white people. And again, this is not a takedown of To Kill a Mockingbird again, because I think there's nothing wrong with To Kill a Mockingbird. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's just by itself, and the way we sort of hold it up as this is the Bible, this is our Bible that will teach you everything about racism in America. I think that is a real flawed way to look at it.
Yeah.
And I think it shows the limitations of it. So to have a school district say, and sort of what they were saying, and again, I'm paraphrasing a lot and sort of interpreting what they were saying. People were picking up on, one of the administrators was saying like, oh, it's a little too it's a little complex for teachers to teach. And he was, and people picked up on that, like, well, racism is complicated, so they should learn about it. But he was sort of saying, well, it's complex because it's got these failings about it,
Right.
and it becomes very complicated for teachers to, you know, there are other books, maybe not by white people, maybe not entirely from a white perspective, where you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to go, okay, we're going to do To Kill a Mockingbird. I don't know. It was interesting to me because I guess we're seeing all these things about book bannings, and my instinct is immediately like, oh, that's really bad. But then also, you can't keep every book that's been on you you can't keep books that have been on a required reading list there forever just because they've always been there, because then you never get new books or different books.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So to reevaluate something like To Kill a Mockingbird, I mean, maybe it is something that every American should read because it is important and it's part of our history and it's a great book. Um, but I don't know. I guess it just got me thinking about like what constitutes a book banning, and because this was, I mean, to pretty much every commentator I saw, this was exactly the same thing as getting rid of Mouse because we don't want to talk about the Holocaust. And
But
I saw this as very different.
it is, because moving it off of required reading to you can read this if you want
Mm-hmm.
is way different than we no longer have this in our school library or our libraries. It's going to be hard, pardon me, hard for you to access unless you have time to get to a Barnes and Noble and pick up your own copy and stop
Right.
and poop while you're there. Um, so it's absolutely completely different, because again, my presumption is people know about To Kill a Mockingbird. People tell people to read To Kill a Mockingbird. It sounds to me like a kid would still have easy access to that book
Yeah.
if they wanted it, if a parent or teacher or friend recommended it, or if they felt they should. It also leads me to believe that this kid at school, since it's not a banned book, would feel very comfortable going to a teacher or a parent or anybody if there was stuff they didn't understand about it and needed explained, which isn't
Right.
banning.
Right.
Yeah, I saw a little something about this today about like banned books versus changing the canon.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Okay.
as you and I have discussed, over the years, a lot of the stuff that I grew up with as canon,
Mm-hmm.
it was white dudes and
Right.
only white dudes. Maybe we would read one thing by a woman and it would
Yeah.
be exciting because it had a woman author. If we
Right.
read something by a non-white person at all, wow.
Yeah.
Same with non-straight. If we read something with any kind of queer mention, whoa, like that was some advanced college course.
Well,
There's
you
a
think
lot of
about,
room to reevaluate the canon.
yeah, and you think about, I mean, I think we're a little young for this, if you can believe we're a little young for anything. But I mean,
Oh my
for
goodness.
generations, like Uncle Tom's Cabin was the book you read about slavery. That was the book you read about the Civil War
Mhm.
and slavery in schools. And again, it's a part of history. It's not, there's nothing wrong with reading Uncle Tom's Cabin, but when you treat it as like, this is the end all be all, and this is what's going to teach you about this, as opposed to, okay, well, this is taking something from a very particular perspective And here's, maybe let's look at this from, you know, maybe slavery and civil rights and Black history um, don't all need to be told by well-intentioned white people
Mm-hmm.
who are, trying to express it from their point of view again, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with Harper Lee. Nothing wrong with To Kill a Mockingbird. But
No, not at all.
in isolation, if that's the only book you're going to read about racism, that's a problem.
Yes, absolutely. And there's room for a lot more diversity in what is on that reading list. I'm here for it.
So
I think it sounds like a great idea. And
no,
go ahead, there's more
interesting.
books in the library. You can go and read them.
Yeah,
It's fun. It's a
absolutely.
good time.
So and like you said, I would be interested in what you were talking about because I have not seen a lot of discussions about. I haven't seen discussions like you were talking about of sort of redefining the canon versus banning books. I mean, I've seen discussions about banning books. I've seen discussions about redefining what's canon. I haven't seen them. I haven't seen them discussed together, and I think that's maybe
Yeah.
the next level of this.
Well, it was something in Slate, and I'm paraphrasing. The author was saying things like, and both sides want to ban books, and mentioned some things that maybe people who have liberal weenie views like we would like
Mhm.
removed from schools, like a white supremacist handbook. Maybe
Yeah.
we'd like to ban that. But then later in the article, the person was also like, well, I don't want to say these books should be banned, but there are better books people could be reading, in my opinion. And I would suggest, and like, it was because some people have a squicky feeling about the Harry Potter series.
Mm.
And I completely understand that. The person was suggesting other, like, kind of witchy or sci-fi or magical type things, and Nnedi Okorafor was on the list
Okay.
of people the author would have recommended instead of reading J.K. Rowling.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
So that was
They're
kind of along the lines of, well, okay, there's these books, but these ones are better, more informative, done by a wider swath of diverse authors, have a different number of perspectives and stuff like that.
Mhm. Yeah, well, that's it. And, it's not all content neutral either. I mean, to the extent, I guess there are books that I would sort of want to see banned from a school library. I don't know if the
Yeah,
white supremacist handbook is a thing, but I would
that was
probably say
mentioned in
like,
the article or something like that.
I would probably go ahead and say like, I don't know if we need that in a school library, and maybe,
Yeah,
maybe that makes me a book banner. I don't know. I mean, it would have to be to an extreme because for the most part, I think, you know, being exposed to different ideas isn't a bad thing. So it would have to be that kind of
mhm,
extreme. It wouldn't be, to equate that to like, well, they don't want any reference to black or gay, any books with any reference to black or gay people or
yeah, it's
Jews.
not the
I don't
same.
see those as the same thing, but
It's not.
it is a more complicated conversation than just, you know, I think
Yep.
the one we've been having.
And knowing us, because we talk about the same stuff all the time, we'll be having this conversation again. But for now,
Sure.
we have to stop. Space Cadets, guess what? Coming up next is We Have No Clue. They let us know that Music Matters isn't on after us anymore, but we've been announcing them. So please enjoy whatever is coming up next after us right here on WAYOLP Rochester.
So what happens in the next time loop?
Why ask me?
Because you're in a time loop. You said so.
Oh, yeah, I'm over that. No, see, it's the listeners that are in a time loop, listening to the same show over and over and over again for more than a decade.
Oh my gosh, poor listeners.
And the worst part? There's no escape.
Don't say that. There's always hope that next week might be different.
Is there?
Hmm. Yeah.